Hello everybody and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. Today's video is called Gamechangers, and listen, this is a new feature of the West Ham Way YouTube channel where basically I'm going to preview the opposition, preview West Ham's players and decide what players in what formation are going to affect the game, where are the key battles going to be won. And listen, we've got Liverpool on Saturday. It's a huge game, it's a tough game, but I've identified two areas that I think we could struggle against and an area that we can potentially expose. So let me go through that just now. First and foremost, in terms of where I think Liverpool could get an edge. Bobby Firmino. Now, Bobby Firmino, depending on how you look at him, he's an ineffective striker. He doesn't get enough goals. But to look at him like that is a little bit short-sighted. And what Firmino does, particularly in that final third, it actually allows the forward men in Salah, Mane, Diogo Jota, who I believe will start on Saturday, gives them movement in behind. And I think particularly West Ham, where they're playing a low block, they've got the double pivot in front. Someone like Firmino can potentially trouble them. So basically what he does, he tends to move between spaces. He tries to pull players out of position. Now, West Ham have been very disciplined, particularly against Manchester City, in which we had to be. But I've seen a few times this season, particularly against Spurs, you know, when they dropped Harry Kane into that 10 role and they pushed on Ndombele up, if there is a midfield overload, it is difficult for someone like Rice and Souček to not only transition from defence to attack, but equally to defend appropriately. And Firmino, in this 10 role, which I believe is now going to play in the absence of any other Liverpool midfielder, is going to find pockets of space. And I don't think Liverpool naturally will play through the middle, which I think would benefit West Ham in terms of being able to defend that. They'll use the width a little bit more, which I think West Ham are more competent and capable to do so with the wing-backs. But if they have Thiago in there, if Thiago comes into the side, if you've got Jordan Henderson playing that 8, they've got good passing range. If they can find Firmino, particularly between the lines of Declan Rice and Souček and in front of that back three, it is going to be tricky, it is going to be difficult. And what he tends to do is draw players out of position. And where you've got Sadio Mane on the left and you've got Mohamed Salah on the right and Jota, you've got players that are willing to run in behind, that can turn on the shoulder, that can create space for themselves. And I'd keep an eye out for Bobby Firmino, because I do believe, particularly when you get to the 60th, 70th minute and all of a sudden West Ham have had a really successful low block and he starts to operate a little bit differently, we could get tired, we could get dragged out of place. And listen, when you watch that Manchester City game, obviously Pep brought on Foden. It's the same principle. Late midfield runners, players playing between the lines. Harry Kane for Spurs. It's something that West Ham struggle with because we don't have a packed midfield. So keep an eye out for him. I don't think he's going to get a goal. I've probably jinxed it now. But certainly he's going to be a threat in Liverpool's side. And I'm going to mention an area that I think we can expose Liverpool on. And this isn't to say he's a bad player, but I do believe West Ham's system will work well against him. I really rate Trent. I really rate Trent. His passing range, his assists, him getting forward. He's a phenomenal player. He really, really is in terms of his offensive action. He's pivotal to the way Liverpool play in terms of using the width, the sort of overlap, and he particularly allows the likes of Salah to come a little bit more central and pick up offensive positions. But defensively, a number of times this season, particularly in the absence of Van Dijk, particularly with Adrian in the side, he does look a little bit weaker. And a couple of times he's been caught square on. He was caught square on against Jack Harrison for Leeds. Against Villa, it was Jack Grealish. Now, I don't think West Ham naturally have a quick player down that left-hand side with Pablo Fornals. But if you've got Pablo Fornals with Arthur Masuaku pushing on, as he tends to do in the West Ham games, and particularly offering an offensive outlet, I do think we can expose him. And I do think we can get him behind. And it isn't just the fact that if he pushes up, you know, we can expose him on the counter. I actually think when you look at Liverpool in a flat back four, even against Sheffield United, he's exposed when the ball's crossed over from the left to the right. So listen, I think Trent's a good player, but I think defensively he's been found out a little bit this season, and I think it's somewhere that West Ham can capitalise on. And I'd expect West Ham, whether Haller plays or whether Antonio starts up front, to try and use that area of the pitch and create chances for him. And listen, we've seen it against Leicester, we've seen it against Spurs, and we've seen it against Manchester City. The wing-backs will push on when West Ham counters. So I expect them to try and exploit Trent a little bit, and I think we'll get a lot of joy. And particularly if we can get past him, get a delivery into the box, I think we can find an Antonio if he's fit or on Haller. So it is an area that I look at for West Ham offensively and think, I think we can get at Trent. And I'd hope West Ham target him, because I think he has got some defensive fragilities in terms of his understanding of space and and whether to press or not. So we shall see. But that is just something, that's an observation that I've seen in previous games. Now on to West Ham. And where I think West Ham may be hindered, where I think West Ham may benefit. So first and foremost, where we might benefit. Right, I understand this wasn't the option that you all thought I was going to pick. Maybe you thought I'd pick Antonio. Obviously, given it's up in the air as to whether he'll start or not, it's a bit difficult. But I think with Pablo Fornals, offensively, he doesn't have the pace to trouble Trent, as I've just said. But I think in this game, particularly with those fullbacks, Trent pushing on, potentially Salah may come out to that wing if he needs to. I think having someone like Fornals, who's got great work rate, he's defensively switched on. And he's willing to do the dirty work. And I think if he's able to pin back Trent, you're taking out an element of Liverpool's play that they need. In that case, you're asking Salah to come wide, where I don't think he can affect the game as much. And you're taking away from Liverpool's central prowess, where they get the forward men to come central. You've got Firmino, they've had an overload in the box and they find space. So I'm looking at Fornals, not necessarily offensively, because I think it's going to be tough for him. He's going to have to link up with Arthur in terms of that pace and that counter-attack. Listen, I think his final ball's fantastic. I think he's shown that a number of times for West Ham. I'm not convinced he'll get too much space against Liverpool, purely because of their athleticism, and purely because I think Trent could backtrack quite a bit. But I mean, it just depends. I just really respect his work rate, and I think it'll be underrated in this game. And listen, against Liverpool last time he produced, I don't think we'll see him in a central role. But I certainly think if he can do a little bit of a job on Trent, pin him back a little bit, prevent him from getting forward, I think not only are you allowing West Ham to bomb on and create chances, you're actually nullifying one of Liverpool's biggest threats in terms of assists and link up with Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah. So I'm going to speak about this man. People are undecided. It's very much Marmite on him. But I think it could be a weak area for West Ham if he does start. Now, first off, before I get into this, I do rate Sebastian Haller as a football player. I think defeat is fantastic. He can link up well with players, but he needs support. And we're all aware of that. He won't stretch defences. He struggles to press effectively. I mean, there are stats saying that he has covered a lot of ground, but in terms of an effective press, I haven't seen it from him. If he plays, it isn't the type of player that I would want. And you're going to rely on someone like Jarrod Bowen running in behind, because Haller's not going to do that. Haller can hold up the ball. Potentially he can take pressure off West Ham. But a lot of what I've seen in terms of his work rate and ability to chase down defenders, it isn't as strong as Antonio's. And it does make me worry, particularly when they're coming against Manchester City. I thought he was very ineffective, and I thought some of his touches were really poor. And you don't expect that from Haller. You think technically he's very, very good. And the questions are about the work rate. But when you see slight inconsistencies in terms of his technicality, it does frustrate me. And I do worry if he plays in this system against Liverpool that he might not profit as much as an Antonio would. And I think having Haller in the side changes the way that West Ham have to play in order to create chances. I think we can afford to have a low block, counter-attacking numbers, and find Antonio with an outball. With Haller, he's not going to stretch defenders. You're going to be looking at pushing the wing-backs up, and they're going to have to push very, very high and get good quality delivery into Haller, whether it's in the air, whether it's to his feet, and that can be frustrating. We will be relying on really good delivery. I'm not saying it won't happen. We saw Masuaku's link up with Haller against Wolves. It can happen. There's no doubt about it. Liverpool struggle aerially, particularly without Virgil van Dijk. There's a couple of players out that you could think, well, West Ham could have a good day against him. But I don't know. I really don't know. I just think Haller changes the system. He changes the way that West Ham play. And it isn't the right game for Haller, in my opinion. So I'm hoping Antonio's fit, because I think he can cause them some real problems. As we've always known with Antonio, his work rate's phenomenal. In terms of his positioning within the box, finding himself central has improved, hence why he scored a lot more goals. His hold-up play as well. In terms of his overall play and bringing people in, I think he's fantastic. He's perfect for this game. He's made for this game. I think he's, out of any other Premier League team, he's scored the most goals against Liverpool. So you'd have to hope he's fit. And it isn't a criticism necessarily on Sebastian Haller as a player. It's just within this system. It's just what I've seen recently that does slightly concern me. And I think Liverpool, if they have the hint that Haller isn't going to get behind and stretch them, they're going to push Hendo and Wijnaldum up. They're going to push Bobby Firmino into a higher position. And all of a sudden, you've that midfield two of Rice and Souček are getting outnumbered, and Liverpool are creating chance after chance. So those are the areas, game changers, i.e. where I think Liverpool strong points are, where West Ham strong points are, and equally where both our weak points are. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe to the West Ham, my YouTube channel, as always. This is going to be a regular feature going forward, so I'm going to analyse a few teams, particularly for the Fulham game. Should be interesting. But yeah, just thought add a little bit more content, add something a bit different, something a little bit shorter for you to get your teeth into. But thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, everybody, take care.